Now, we're using tutor here in a slightly specific sense. When we talk about writing tutors, we're referring to a certain setup in which students get to have a face-to-face, one-on-one interaction with someone who has experience in that field and who can guide them and give them that kind of targeted attention that perhaps is not always available in the classroom. So we're using the term tutor to actually refer to that, but it isn't necessary that that term is what is used to apply to that role everywhere, just like tutoring programs are not the same everywhere. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask all the discussants here today to just take a few minutes to introduce themselves and also just set the context by telling us what the tutoring program, what the one-on-one guidance programs in your respective universities looks like. And if you could start perhaps with Ela.
Hi, and thank you for having me. I'm quite excited about this discussion today. A little bit about me, and how I came to tutoring is really that I came to it at a time when I felt like I was caught in a little bit of a disciplinary crisis, which was more of feeling I had just completed my MA in gender studies, and I also had a background in literature and journalism. And I think I was at that point trying to find a way through various writing forms that I was interested in, simply because I suddenly found myself interested in doing research as well. So I think that it was from that space that I ended up wanting to find a kind of atmosphere in which I could have these conversations with people, and have these conversations with students, especially simply because I was also thinking about my own undergraduate degree, and the kind of space that I had found at that point in time. And so and that was really how I came to tutoring at APU. Um, I think though that I mean, these are from the conversations that we've had before this discussion with the other panelists in terms of talking about what the structure of tutoring is like in our various universities. And for I think the APU system seems, from what I could gather, seemed a little bit different, in that the language center has been running for some time now, but I think that it's slowly becoming more formalized, and it's still in the process of that happening. But our system at APU is set up in such a way that I was able to think of my writing tutorials as something similar, in terms of finding a space where students could come to writing and not be entirely terrified of it. So it was also, I mean, it was on the one hand a matter of helping students with particular assignments and working through that, through structure, through content, and thinking about those, how to build an argument. But it was also a place where we could encourage students to think about what it might be like to actually develop a relationship with a second language like English, which it is for a lot of our students who are first generation learners in their families. So I think that, I mean, coming specifically to what the program is like at APU, we usually have a critical reading and writing course that happens in the first year. There are two courses, one in each semester, and it happens in the first year when students enter campus. And this is a compulsory course. It doesn't, whether you're doing humanities or the sciences, or whatever it might be. So usually in the first sort of week in this course, we give them a diagnostic test, which is in some sense to get a sense of of where students are in terms of their language abilities, especially in terms of their writing. So it's more of a comprehensive. It's like a comprehension test. So there's like a reading, and you sort of answer questions based on that reading. Um, it's also based on this diagnostic test that the instructors will then recommend students to join the language center. And we have about, I think, seven instructors, if I'm not wrong, 7 to 8 instructors, and each of us work with a group of 6 students, sometimes larger, sometimes smaller, throughout the course of the year. So I think that what helps in this particular system is that we meet them. We meet the same students multiple times a week. And because of which it allows us to do both work that has to do with their immediate classes and the immediate requirements of those classes, as well as getting students to just simply be interested in the language, read, bring. I mean, different instructors do different things. Some people bring readings to class. Some people, we have worksheets, we have personal essays being written, all kinds of things that happen in within those sessions. So I think that we have this year actually tried to start some kind of a walk-in session as well, where people who want some help can come in just with a particular assignment. Though this, I must say, and I don't know, it's probably because of the online mode more than anything else, which is that it hasn't had as much uptake as we would have hoped. So yeah, but that's the background with which I'm coming to this conversation.
Okay, thanks a lot, Hila. That definitely was really fascinating. Give us an insight into what kind of programs offered there. I was particularly interested by what you said about how coming to writing pedagogy sometimes when you have that sort of disciplinary crisis. I think, as you put it, I remember my first experience with working as a tutor was actually when I was a master's student at Shivnagari University, and Ananya was actually my teacher at that time, and she was running the tutoring program. And it was really that exposure that gave me a sense that teaching is something passion. Exactly like you said, the sort of ability to engage with young people is really something that I'm interested in. And what you talked about, particularly in terms of bridging the gap that is created by the fact that a lot of people um, speak English as a second language, it's not their mother tongue, is something that is very crucial here at here at Kriya. We've tried to bridge that to a certain extent this year by having what we call conversation partners, again second year students who are willing to have these short sessions where, much like you were saying, sharing certain material, having just discussions to help bridge that. In fact, we have Priyanka Shah, who's one of our tutors as well. She was also a conversation partner here. But I don't want to completely give away all the details of our tutoring program either. So let's ask Shreya now to introduce herself and how she came to and how she came to tutoring. And again, to just give a sense of what the tutoring program at Kriya University looks like. Shreya?
Yeah, thank you, Samir. So at CREA, the tutoring program started off this year as a student tutoring program, whereas last year the teachers and
Sorry to
instructors.
interrupt you, Shreya. Can you speak up? Your voice is very low.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So last year at CREA University, the tutors were instructors from the course and other faculty members. This year, Professor Samir started off the student tutoring program. So there were 5 of us students selected, and each of us were assigned to some of the WOC sections. So we were brought on as tutors for the writing and oral communication course specifically. And once we were assigned sections, the instructors of those sections would recommend students to us for tutoring. I believe each of us had around 6 to 7 students throughout the course of the trimester, and we would meet them at least once a week to kind of address any issues that they were having with the course, help them with the kind of concept level difficulties that they were had. That because we were brought on as tutors specifically for the writing and oral communication course, we were asked to look at concept level difficulty rather than language level difficulty, because in the short term of a trimester, it's hard to address everything at once. So looking at concept level difficulties would mean structuring their arguments, helping them convert what the ideas in their head into an academic paper, or showing them how to think in take whatever they're thinking regardless of what language they're thinking in and convert it into a logical argument in English, in written English rather. And in addition to our weekly meetings with our students, we also had twice a week meetings with our fellow tutors and Professor Samir, where we would share our experiences from our sessions and discuss our insights so that we could continue to learn and grow as we tutored the students. Yeah, I think that's the most important parts of the program.
Okay, thanks a lot, Shreya. One thing I'd like to add there, if I can speak on behalf of the instructors to some extent, is precisely this, that, the tutoring and the courses were kind of integrated in the sense that instructors would identify students who need help with specific targeted skills. And for that reason, they'd be sent to tutoring. But also as a consequence of this, once those skills were sort of worked through, then new students would then be suggested for tutoring. And that sense, really our tutors handled a lot of different students with their different individual needs, which is again, very different from the kind of program that Ela talked about, where they were able to work for a sort of protracted length of time with students. And Ela, you also mentioned that you experimented with the sort of walk-in system, but which is relatively new. Shachi, I think, at Jindal, they've had a much more sustained sort of attempt to work out that question of walk-in interviews or booking appointments with interviews. And partly that's sort of utilizing technology for making the most of this pandemic situation. So Shachi, I'd like to invite you to introduce yourself and give us a sense of what the program at Jindal has been like.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Amir. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Um, I am an assistant lecturer with the Center for Writing Studies at OP Jindal Global University, and our system is actually quite different from what I've heard from my co-panelists, like in our conversation yesterday and today as well, because we have a faculty of 8 people with 6 assistant professors, 2 assistant lecturers, and all of us are full-time teaching staff. And tutoring duties are something we do on top of that as well. So we do not have a dedicated program to tutoring yet. We are sort of hoping to move towards a peer-to-peer tutoring program, eventually be able to train peer tutors, which is why I'm very interested in listening to what Shreya has to tell us. Also, apart from that, what has worked for us in one way is that the fact that we have this sort of a permanent structure within the university space, it provides us a lot more leverage in some ways when we are trying to talk out what kind of requirements we have as a center, what kind of designs we need to put in place in order to assist the students better. But otherwise, what it takes away from is this sort of dedicated tutoring space, right? That one thing that we end up making a little bit of a compromise on is that we do not look to sustain these long relationships with the same students. Only recently we were wondering about how some students, keep sending you a request over and over again because they actually do enjoy the tutoring and they need it and they appreciate it. But after a point of time, you have to, maybe use your discretion and allow that space to open up for new students. So during the online method, until now, we had walk-in interviews and we had appointments based over email. But during the pandemic, we have sort of shifted to an app-based booking system. We have an internal app called CallPaul, in which most of the bookings for smaller things around the campus also happen, like swimming pool space, even food and other stuff. But now we have managed to secure a small space on that. And at the beginning of every semester, we sort of circulate this poster telling what our tutoring hours will be. And students can come, they can choose the faculty, or they can just, anonymously just book a session for themselves. And so there is basically 4 hours of tutoring sessions each week. And that is the time during which we have to accommodate, let's say 8 students, 4 to 5 hours, and we accommodate 8 to 10 students at max. So the tutoring system at our place then is not, this long-term sustained thing, which I have heard from all of you, and which is also led me to these 2 broad questions that I'm looking to answer, or looking to at least get your insights on at the end of this conference. One with regard to the institutional role of tutoring, within writing centers itself and within larger institutions, and then the role of writing centers itself and the, sort of pedagogical space that writing occupies in the larger university sort of canvas, right? And so maybe if by the end of this, we can think about, we discussed, I think there is an ethic of care that is involved with this whole tutoring thing that we do, right? And as an instructor, to then translate to tutoring, that mediation also for us brings like a unique perspective in some ways, but it also sort of leaves a gap for us to build this more closer, sustained relationship. Broadly, just that, because we have this different sort of, faculty as tutor system. I am really interested in seeing how the peer-to-peer tutoring system works. I'm also interested in sharing the kind of challenges, limitations, and obviously some privileges that it brings for us to be in this sort of role as a writing center. So yeah, that's broadly my introductory.
Thank you so much, Shachi. And yeah, that sort of idea of the ethic of care and sort of care-based pedagogy is something that at Kriya as well, under Dr. Dasgupta, we really are invested in. And in some ways, the Jindal and Kriya centers have some shared DNA. Ananya actually shifted from Jindal to Kriya, and currently the head of the writing center there at Jindal is Dr. Madhura Lohkare, who was actually my instructor when I was a student tutor at Shiv Nadar. So, it's really great seeing that idea of care running through, and precisely like you said, that writing centers, writing pedagogy occupies a really special place within the university, and then within that, tutors offer a very special service within writing pedagogy as well. And there's this real human connect, in a sense, that of course is there at teaching, but happens in a much more targeted manner as part of tutoring. And I think Nancy, when we last talked, she had mentioned to the extent that at her university, at Ashoka, that it almost became as if writing tutors were offering wellness and mental health help to their students, in the fact that they were working so closely with them. So Nancy, could you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what your work experience at Ashoka has been like?
Samir, first of all, for organizing all of this, and for constantly being in touch with us. That really, your document is really has guided me to think about many questions. So thank you for that, and I'm really excited to be here. Also, because this is my first time tutoring. So I joined Ashoka, the Center for Writing and Communications, in September 2020. So I joined in the online mode itself. And before that, I have experience of teaching at a couple of Delhi University colleges and at OP Jindal University also. And I am a sociologist by education. I think, unlike Ila, for whom coming to tutoring might have been in some ways a conscious choice, for me, it wasn't so much of a conscious choice, but, just one of those things that happened to me, as Sachi pointed out, a few important questions about the role, the space of writing centers in universities. But I'm also interested in looking at who are writing tutors, what is their identity, because at least at the Center for Writing and Communications, we have a team of 13 people, and we are all hired for the CWC itself. We do not have any other teaching duties as such, and it's a really diverse group. So we have journalists, we have poets, story writers, historian. Kanika, who's the director, is a historian herself. I am a sociologist. We have someone from media studies, a couple of people from English literature, and also some of us have a master's degree, some of us have an MPhil degree, a couple of us also have PhDs. So in that sense also, it's quite a diverse group. But there's also a hierarchy in the university system. And when I was applying for this job, a few of my peers were asking me, don't you think it's like demoting yourself from being an assistant professor to a writing tutor? And that question hadn't entered my mind when I was applying for the job, but definitely, I did start thinking about those things also. So that has been at the back of my mind. And, I'm wondering if, we could discuss a few of those things. But before that, I'd like to introduce, I'd like to talk a bit about the Center for Writing and Communications at Ashoka. And So as I said, we are a group of 13 people, and while one of our main, duties, and I had a slide show to show you, but I can't share it right now. So maybe later, if the electricity comes back, we do one-on-one tutoring sessions with students. That is one of the most important things that the center does. But at the same time, we are very invested in looking at other kinds of, writings other than academic writing, and other forms of communication. So, for example, yesterday I'd organized a program on how do journalists tell stories, and we have this series of creative programs that we try to do every 2 weeks. So two programs every month, in which we discuss various kinds of writing, various modes of communication. So from sound in cinema, to comics writing, to translation, to poetry, to journalistic writing. The next program that I'm organizing is on writing cities. So how do we write cities? So so we try and creative programs is one of our strong sort of engagement with the student body at Ashoka. And also it's mostly open to all, like it's not only open, it's not restricted to Ashoka students. So in that sense, it's also our engagement with the larger academic community. And we try and invite experts, but a lot of times our team members also conduct these events. The second thing that I am really interested in talking about is the English language teaching program that we do through the CWC. And actually, when students are taken, they're given admission at Ashoka, the admissions committee kind of identifies a few students who might need help with English language. So for them, we conduct this program called Academic Bridge Program, which starts before their first semester starts. It's a 3-week program where the CWC identifies the gaps in their English language proficiency and tries to bridge some of those gaps. But on the basis of our interaction with those chosen students for 3 weeks, we also sort of select the students who we think need more help with English language proficiency, who need more support. So we have 2 programs that we offer. One is the primary English. Hold on, I'll tell you so the first, the one we offer in the first semester, in the monsoon semester, is called English Communication Program. It's a 4-credit program. And then in the spring semester, in the second semester, we offer an intermediate English communication program, which is again 4 credits. These are students who are some of them are first generation learners, and all of them have gaps with English language, talking, speaking, listening, reading, all those skills. So our courses sort of focus on all these skills. And this year we've had like 8 students in our English language teaching programs. And other than that, we also have a thing called foundational course plan. So, something that we were discussing the other day, and I was, it's interesting what Shreya said, because she said that as a student tutor, she's tried to, or the program tries to intervene at the concept level difficulty rather than the language level difficulty. Okay, and that is, I think that has been one of my dilemmas as a tutor, and I know that my colleagues at CWC also share this dilemma, which is the content versus structure binary, where when we get students, I can get a student who is doing their PhD in psychology, or their master's in philosophy, or their bachelor's in economics. And then when I am supposed to give them feedback, where am I giving them feedback on? What am I giving them feedback? Just saying something as simple as argument and counter argument. The construction of an argument is not sort of, uh, isolated from the subject in which that argument is being made. So this sort of constant dilemma that a lot of us face while tutoring, and it sort of really makes me think what is really the job of a tutor, because we are dedicatedly tutors at Ashoka University. And in the matter of a day, if I have 4 appointments, they can be from English, sociology, anything and everything. So many a times we do feel if we do refer these learners to another colleague of ours who we think would be more competent in helping them, but most of the times we do not have that luxury because everyone has their schedules full. So that is one question that I am really interested in thinking about. And so just one last thing, I think I've taken a lot of time, but I just really wanted to, um, share how much I related to what Professor Sumitra said in the beginning about, our own practices as writers, and our own practice of writing. I come from all my education has been in public universities, and we were never offered courses on writing or reading. And I remember being really intimidated in my tutorials at Delhi School of Economics when I was doing my master's. Back for us, tutorials meant 1.5 hours of my heartbeat used to race like crazy in the first semester, because I did not have a background in sociology, and it was intimidating because tutorials were meant to be those spaces where you are able to convince the tutor, who was our professor, that we're smart and we're getting the text. And at the end of a semester, we are submitting 4 tutorial assignments, and we are being marked on that. And it was, and I attended yes the session by Professor Ananya yesterday, the one on sentencing, and I did cry a lot of times while writing. And then while writing my MPhil dissertation also, I think I was only able to complete it because I had a few friends who were willing to read and reread and keep on reading till it makes sense, and give feedback. So in that sense, I also I value this program a lot. I value this activity that I'm doing a lot. But I wonder if we're able to communicate the value of our work to the student body, as well as to like the larger academic community that we're all a part of. So I would like to really, discuss a few of these questions, in the session today. Yeah.